For me to sit here with. Good morning and welcome to our Building Business Back workshop on childcare options in Monterey County. My name is Paul Farmer. I am the COO of the Monterey County Business Council. The Building Business Back program is a program of the County of Monterey operated in partnership with MCBC. And our purpose is to help businesses in Monterey County and other organizations to recover from the pandemic. So this is one of our series of workshops on different topics that affect businesses. During the pandemic, childcare is always an issue, but especially during the pandemic, when children were not allowed to go to school, and parents ended up having to take care of their children themselves. It became an obstacle for those parents to be able to go back to work when it was possible for them to go back to work. There are a number of barriers to successful childcare in Monterey County, some of which we'll talk about today, some of the barriers and some of the solutions. And even as the impact of the pandemic is going down, many of those barriers remain. So we recognize this as a business issue, and we have welcomed our speakers, Sonia Kohler and Kevin Dayton, to speak about that. Before we jump in, I just need to point out that our interpreter, Marisela Quesada, is online. And if you need interpretation, you can click el icono del globo. Marisela, are you able to speak? Do you want to do the introduction in Spanish? Okay, I will do it for her. So if you need interpretation in Spanish, you can either click in the chat box and Marisela will give you the instructions, or if you see the globe icon, you can click on that. And in Spanish, si usted necesita traducción al español, tenemos nuestra intérprete Marisela, y usted puede comunicar con ella por el chat o y le damos la bienvenida. Okay, so with that, I want to introduce Sonia. I've known Sonia for a couple of years now. She is one of the leaders in solutions for early childhood development within Monterey County and has become something of a specialist as well, I would say, on what the child care problems are and some of the solutions. So we asked Sonia to come here today to speak with us a bit about that. So with no further ado, welcome, Sonia.
Wonderful, Paul. Great to be here together with you on this fantastic subject. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm going to be talking specifically about what it means to be a family-friendly employer. And I'm just going to take a brief moment to get my slides set up here. It's always a challenge to talk and click at the same time, but I think I got it. So again, my name is Sonia Kohler. I'm the director of Bright Beginnings Early Childhood Development Initiative, here to talk to you about one of our initiatives, one of our programs called the Family Friendly Business Certification Program. This is one of many things that businesses can do to support young children and families in our community as we're recovering from the pandemic, but really at any time. And I'm excited to be here with my friend and colleague, Kevin, who's going to share some additional things that are going on here in the county on how you can support young children and families. Really, we like to say childcare is everyone's business. I don't have children, yet I understand how important it is for us as a community, as a whole community, to come together, because children are present and they're our future. And I'm especially looking at our future workforce. They are who will be doing our work down the line. So I'm just a little bit about me. I'm coming to you today from Chicago, which is where I lived before I came to Monterey County. And I've been running my own consulting business for over 15 years now. So I am a businesswoman, and I direct our initiative here in the county, in Monterey County. Here in Chicago, I worked for an organization called CEOs for Cities, really doing looking at some of our most tenacious issues in urban areas. And I believe we are in Monterey County, even though we're big, we have some urban issues and have an urban feel. From a multi-sector, multidisciplinary perspective. We'd bring together folks from our anchor institutes, our largest businesses, our universities, to figure out how to solve our problems, and taking some of that into our community, into Bright Beginnings, that lens of what does it take for economic development together. So just a little bit about Bright Beginnings, and then I'll share with you why family-friendly business is important, just a taste of that, and then how you can certify as a family-friendly business and join that community full of resources and opportunity to connect. So Bright Beginnings was launched about 10 years ago after a Nobel laureate economist came to town. His name is Professor James Heckman, and he'll be coming back on October 7th. And where really folks from all sectors came together to hear why investing in early childhood is important. And it's easy. It's a 13% return on investment. For when we invest in early childhood, we see better outcomes in graduation rates, employment rates of both children and their parents, in health, in lower crime rates as a community, et cetera. So the Children's Council came together and launched Bright Beginnings Early Childhood Development Initiative. Our big goal is to double kindergarten readiness. In the county, the last time it was measured, only 25% of kids are ready for kindergarten. We have an audacious goal of doubling that within, we have a couple more years to go. We've been a little perhaps waylaid by COVID, but we are striving together to go there. And we have a holistic approach of what it takes to support children and their families, whether it's from a business perspective, a health perspective, an early education, just really looking at the whole picture. I'm not going to walk through all of this, but wanted to give you a taste. Really, after looking at all of those circles and words, what it really comes down to is supporting our future leaders, our future workforce, the future of our community. It's really about young children and their families and what we all need to thrive as families, as businesses, as communities. So here's perhaps something to catch your eye. Do you want to increase your revenue as a business by 49%? Just like the 13% ROI, that's not a shabby deal, 49%. Research shows that when businesses look at the needs of their employees as a whole, not only what they need to succeed for your bottom line, for your success as a business, but also for them as whole people, as a family, that your revenue goes up. And so one way we encourage that here in Monterey County is through our family-friendly business certification program. There are two types of certificates. One is about your HR policies, what you do affects your employees, and the other is more for your patrons, who comes in through your doors or your user experience as a business, and that's a child welcoming business. There's a URL here, brightbeginnings.org, brightbeginningsmc.org, don't forget that, family-friendly-business. I encourage you to multitask while I'm talking, go there and certify today. So this initiative was launched, I believe it was 2017, in partnership with the Office of Education, with United Way, with First Five. And one of our banks was the first to certify as a family-friendly business and a child welcoming business. And since then, we've had dozens of others join in. And so I'm excited to see that list grow today. I hope to see your names pop up in our inbox to certify. What happens is, well, I'll back up and look at a few numbers just to give you a context of why this is important. And then we'll go into some of the things that would make you a family-friendly employer when you to be able to certify, and then wrap up with a few other things. So what's the impact of being family friendly? One of the big things we're all concerned about right now is attraction and retention of employees. I have staff positions that are open. I've been recruiting since the beginning of COVID and still haven't found folks. And so what can we do to help attract and then also retain our talent? So family-friendly policies reduce absenteeism. They enhance organizational effectiveness and efficiency through retention of experienced and knowledgeable staff. You don't always have to retrain. It reduces stress amongst your employees at all levels. So they're not busy worrying about their family, about their children. They're focused on their work. And through that, increased productivity through happier, more engaged staff. Again, you have a reduced costs due to turnover, to healthcare, and lost productivity. And then you also have a more stable home life for parents and children alike, which helps to address some of, for instance, some of the impact that Paul was talking about that we've had on COVID that's been really difficult for everyone all around. So the more we can provide stability, the better it is for children, the better it is for parents, the better it is for those who employ parents. Those are some of the impacts around attraction and retention. And if you're thinking about what does that mean in terms of how many people would this affect? We work mostly with young children, and we know we have more than 37,000 children under the age of 6 in Monterey County. Those are really the crucial years where you want this kind of stability and positive, consistent adult relationships with children, because that's where 90% of our brains develop. That's where we lay the foundation for our social, emotional, and our cognitive skills. We often think workforce training doesn't start until maybe high school. Maybe you dabble a little bit younger. Really, it starts in the first 5 years, first 6 years of our lives. So workforce development, start early. It's especially important for those more social, emotional, soft skills that are hard to come by. So just another plug for starting early in our workforce development. I don't have numbers locally for what I'm sharing next, but I do believe our community reflects what's happening nationally. To some of the most recent labor statistics, 62% of families with children have both parents employed. And I share that with both parents because it makes it even more challenging to address the needs of home life when both parents are in the workforce. Looking at just mothers, which for me is really important. We know there's still disparities in employment between men and women. And so the more we can address bringing equity into our workforce, the better. We know that's better for business, it's better for community. So just looking at that specifically, married mothers are less likely to participate in the labor force than mothers with other marital statuses. By contrast, married fathers are more likely to participate in the labor force than fathers with other marital statuses. What that means is that your employees that are mothers are struggling more than fathers because they have a different balance between work and home life. So just something to pay attention to. So family-friendly business. Just want to take a moment and connect again with the children, our community. Here you have a smiling face. And just imagine, what does it mean to her? And then what does it mean to you as a business? What does it mean to a parent as well? We've already mentioned some of that. It means stability, less stress. And as this child radiates, I'll just say more joy, something we all need after several difficult years. So there are already a lot of laws that tell us how to be family friendly. Here's a list of 9 of them that are hopefully familiar to you, depending on the size of your business, that you're already following, about healthy workplaces and healthy families, sick leave for family care, Family School Partnership Act, around school discipline leave, lactation accommodation laws, etc. So those are some that should be familiar to you. What's also important is to make sure that your employees understand what resources they have to support them and work together with you when they need to address some of their family needs. And so when we look at our certification program, there are three main categories of things that qualify you to certify. And it's an online certification process. It's super easy, really. If you haven't already done it, as I'm talking, please do it now. There's three categories, bronze, silver, and gold. And it just depends on how many, there's a checklist of things that I'm going to review with you. How many of those apply to your business? You will go into one of those three categories. Those categories are building in opportunities for employees to spend time with their family at a time that matches their schedule, which might not necessarily be your work schedule, but bringing in opportunities for that. And then also providing employees with family assistance resources. During onboarding processes, make sure they know what the laws are, how they're applied in your business, and then what other resources there are for them in case something such as sick leave comes up. And then there's creating the family welcoming environments, and that can look in different ways for different types of businesses. So let's take a look at that. Oh, and I would like to just share with you the fine print. On an earlier slide, you might have seen some fine print. And so that's here a little bit larger. That disclaimer, Bright Beginnings does not provide legal or HR advice. And so please do consult your appropriate professionals before implementing changes to your HR policy. Just advising you to do that. We have some ideas for you to work on. So here are some opportunities that you may already have in your business or would like to consider so that employees can spend time with their family going, there's important milestones, whether it's a graduation or a celebration of other sorts that are really important for families to go to be together. So there's options for flexible work schedules, allowing employees to telecommute or work from home. That's way more popular now than it was before for many. Granting employees periods of paid leave, whether it's for a birth or for a death or other types of milestones again. Something that you don't see very often, but is becoming more and more popular is offering meaningful part-time or job share employment opportunities. The difference generally between part-time or job share is that part-time often does not come with benefits, which are so important for families, and job share opportunities do. I have friends who've been in job share employment opportunities. It's about 50-50 between two people. They were both young mothers. Not only were they excelling at their jobs because they had time to balance life and family, they also supported each other and made the work better. So it's really a win-win for everyone. Another opportunity is providing unpaid leave for agreed upon circumstances. So what really is important these days is for childcare responsibilities. For example, we still see sometimes that classrooms in centers have to close down because of an outbreak, a COVID outbreak. What's a parent to do? They need to suddenly be able to go and take care of that. And if it can't fit under a paid leave, we hope that employers can offer unpaid leave in order to deal with that, not only to support their own children, but the other families and children at that center or classroom. Then there's being flexible in use of paid time. Often you can only take it as a day, so maybe only as part of a day or things like that, looking at it a little differently. And then also, if someone is taking leave, instead of an unpaid leave, perhaps they can do more of a flexible schedule, adding extra hours because folks need the money. Unpaid leave isn't always an option for everyone. And then finally, another thing is breastfeeding accommodation. Sometimes that means the child will come to the workplace. Other times it'll look differently as well. So in the next category, we have, let's see, oops, wrong way. Creating family welcoming environments. This could be for patrons coming into your space, or it could also be if an employee has young children that they may be able to take the child to the workplace from time to time in order to accommodate schedules, unforeseen circumstances, or foreseen. So parents don't have to make a choice of taking care of their children or working, at least being able to address both. So for instance, for your patrons, if you're in a bank or something like that, it could be really easy to have a play area for children with safe, age-appropriate toys and materials, understanding what that looks like. Having reading materials for different topics and age ranges. You could have snacks for kids, that always helps out. Or you can have child-friendly images around your business, recognizing that young children are participants in our community, not just adults. So helping us remember that we're all in it together. And then, of course, accessible restrooms and baby changing facilities. Some of those are required, so you're most likely doing that already. Finally, let's look at some ways to, some types of family assistant resources that are out there that you can share. There are resources for counseling, legal advice, childcare, and other services. And in a moment, I'll share one resource around childcare. And when you're recruiting and orienting your new staff, but especially during recruitment, be sure to advertise how you're family friendly. We know people have choice in where they're employed, and that could be something that could really be appealing to new recruits. And when employees are on paid family leave or on pregnancy leave, make sure that when they come back into the workspace, they are integrated in a way that makes sense. If there's been big changes and things like that. So making sure everyone is still working together. And I've already mentioned some of these other ones, so I'll just let you browse through those at your pace. So those are the three categories of areas to look at when you're certifying as a family-friendly or child-welcoming business. So here is what our webpage looks like when you go to that URL. You can see it up here, brightbeginningsmc.org/family-friendly-business. And when you scroll down, I can't do it on this page, you'll find where the application process is. What I wanted to show you here is this badge. This is one of the resources that you can do quickly and easily. You can add it to your website, you can share it to your socials, you can simply share it during onboarding or at any time with your current employees. This badge, if you go on this website, and later on I'll put links into the chat, you can go and download the badge, load it up to your website, and it's to a centralized place for families to look for childcare. It's hard to find it. We have a shortage of childcare in the area, but we still do all we can to help connect families with the childcare that does exist. So the website there is montereycountychildcare.org. So please share that with your employees, with your networks, so people can access what does exist. Finally, I want to extend an official invitation to all of you to see how investing in childcare impacts our community. Again, Nobel laureate economist James Heckman is returning to Monterey County October 7th for a breakfast at the Monterey Conference Center, 8:30 to 10:30. Please join us. It is truly fascinating. He has lots of new research that's come out. And I think it's engaging for everyone to see how, when we invest in this important infrastructure, in this important resource in our community in childcare, the impacts it can have on our entire community. That's hosted by First Five. So please, I hope to see you there. And we can, I'll ask Paul to send that invitation out as well, so you have it. So the last plug for certifying it, just making the attention to be more family friendly will drive your own results in achieving that. We send you decals and a welcome packet, and you can post about that so people know that you are taking this, you're considering what it takes to be family friendly. You have access to resources, a cohort for peer support, and we'll be doing a revamp of our program so that we can serve you better, and you'll have an opportunity to influence how Bright Beginnings offers resources. So that's all I've got. And I know after I hand it off to Kevin, we'll have an opportunity for questions. Is that right, Paul? We'll wait until the end to do that.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just going to make sure. I was going to make sure you're able to stay till the end. So yes, yeah, we'll do that.
Of course. And again, here's my my name and contact information if you want to reach out to me directly. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sonia. I know you can't hear the thunderous applause, but it's happening throughout the world. So thank you for Sonia, not only for the important work, not only for the presentation, but also for the very important work you do in raising visibility of childcare as a business issue. It's not something people immediately think of, but after listening to someone like you and consideration, people realize how these investments really are for the long term. I know we're not always great. We're great at dealing with crises that happen immediately. But it's important that we look at the longer term for the success of our economy and businesses and whatnot. So thank you for your work with that. Our next speaker is Kevin Dayton. I've known Kevin Dayton for about 10 years. He's been a leader in Monterey County on a variety of business issues. And I think he's probably relatively new to dealing with childcare issues within Monterey County. But when he and I and other business leaders were approached for support in some efforts that Kevin will talk about, he recognized the importance of it and jumped in wholeheartedly. Even though his own children are a little older now, but you know, as a parent, I know he can empathize with the challenges that parents have. So I'll pass it over to Kevin, and thank you for joining us today, Kevin.
Thank you, Paul. And I think Paul's going to mute here so that I can speak with my own microphone. Okay, great. Thank you. Kevin Dayton. I am here at the Castroville Library where this event is being hosted. I am a public policy consultant, and among my roles is Government Affairs Liaison for the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, Government Affairs Liaison for the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, and Government Affairs Director for the Salinas City Center Improvement Association. So I get a pretty good feel of what business owners and people involved with businesses in Monterey County are talking about. As we began to come out of the COVID-19 public health orders in 2021, it became clear that one of the problems that our businesses were suffering from in Monterey County, both large and small, was a shortage of people who wanted to apply for jobs. And we were hearing this from all over, and in trying to scratch into what actually might be the problem with not having enough workers to apply for positions, I frequently heard the issue that childcare was not affordable, there was not enough available, there was no child care options available anywhere near them, so they had to do a lot of driving to drop people off. And I looked more into that and believed that those comments were valid. In fact, COVID-19 apparently has shut down some of the child care options, and they've never really come back. So I realized this is something that both chambers of commerce need to address. And I decided as a government affairs director, I would try to present a structure for the leadership of both chambers to consider childcare and see if it was something that they wanted to take more of a leadership role on. And I'm right now sharing my screen for the slideshow. Hold on, I have to undo apparently a privacy. Let's try this again. Apologize for the delay here. Yeah, you know what? I think at this point, since I've just tried to allow the Zoom access and it keeps on going back to the privacy again, I'm going to pass it to you. Sorry about that. I'm too protected.
Well, protection is a good thing. Sometimes
Yeah, it is. While you're setting that up, I'll once again make an attempt to break through.
there we go. Okay.
All right, let's go to the cover page of the slide presentation.
Can you see what we're seeing?
Yes, right now I'm seeing a screen that has files, and the file for the slideshow is highlighted.
Turn around.
Oh, you're ahead. Okay. All right. So are people on Zoom seeing the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to look at the screen then and proceed from there.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, here we go. All right, back that up one to the, there we go. Thank you. So what I did for the Chambers of Commerce for their government affairs committees is I put together an evaluation table where with the help of people like Sonia and other people interested in childcare, I came up with some proposals for the chambers to consider in terms of business involvement with childcare and child development. And these meetings were held in September 2021. And next slide, please. And what I did was I created a chart where everybody would discuss these ideas and then rank it based on importance, meaningful proposal, difficulty, and urgency. And out of that, we would rank all the different options and proceed with them. As you can see here, this was the page for other ideas not already listed, which I encourage people to come up with. But to tell you the truth, I think we were pretty comprehensive. So next slide, please. So the first thing I considered with childcare and the relationship with business groups is the truth is that many of the people who are involved in the leadership of businesses and business groups in Monterey County actually didn't know anybody who was in the world of childcare and child development. We have a group called First Five Monterey County, which is actually a government agency that coordinates a lot of childcare opportunities. People did not really know what this group was. I can tell you for one thing is Sonia Kohler had gotten involved with the as a member through Bright Beginnings of the two Chamber of Commerces that I worked for. And she had begun attending government affairs meetings and also writing articles for Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce Business Journal. And Sonia, that involvement, I think, was absolutely critical because she created this bridge between the world of business and the world of childcare. And I'll add, as I've gotten a lot more involved in childcare, one bridge that still needs to be built. Almost everyone who, when I go into meetings, is female, and I don't think that's necessary. There are many fathers in Monterey County and many men involved with business who are very interested in childcare. And I'm hoping that as we proceed with initiatives over the next year, that more men will want to see involvement. But I have to admit, I was never involved with it myself until I saw a need for businesses to work on this in 2021. So what we did first before moving forward was confirming that it was important to have this relationship so we could get a better idea of what was out there in terms of childcare, who was directing the funding from federal and state programs and county programs, and start building those relationships so we can trust each other. For example, we're going to talk a little bit later about the ballot measure for childcare. The key to actually getting people to back that was for them to begin to learn and get to know the people who were running childcare, so that they understood that if there was revenue collection for childcare, that they could trust the people who were going to be managing it. And as I said to people in childcare, I said, that requires you to start going to chamber meetings and inviting people to your events and being a lot more public with what you're doing, so that people will say, yeah, I know the chair, the head of First Five Monterey County. She's very competent and capable, and I trust that she's going to be able to do this kind of work. Same thing with Sonia as a consultant to First Five. Every time she gets out there and makes one of these presentations, people will say, Sonia knows what she's talking about. So those relationships are absolutely critical. Research and compile data. Sonia has been working on that. The Monterey County Board of Supervisors actually ended up providing some funding for research into childcare. I know at the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, they did a survey about childcare needs. So this information is being collected. Personally, as someone who's representing businesses and is fiscally conservative, I don't want to be making policy decisions based on emotions. I want to see data and make sure that whatever we're doing is useful. And research on preliminary solutions. And I pretty much did that by seeing what was going on across the country and across the state. Next slide, please. So I always started my presentations with what I consider to be the most dramatic proposals. And one of them was a tax fee collection, distributing that revenue. And the first one I had here on my bullet point was a ballot measure to provide a steady stream of government collected revenue to fund various aspects of childcare services that the free market cannot sustain. And as I'll tell you coming up, out of all the things, I never would have believed it. We now have Measure Q on the Monterey County ballot in November to provide a small supplemental funding source through a parcel tax to try to shore up the areas of childcare affordability and accountability that the market wasn't handling. But I'll talk a little more about that later. Another idea I brought up, which is something that's occurring a lot in the San Francisco Bay Area, is developer fees for mandates for childcare facilities and programs in development agreements. And I haven't seen any of that done in Monterey County lately, at all. And I'm assuming that would be highly controversial to developers if it was moving forward. But I did throw that out there because other places were doing it. Obviously, there's pros and cons to that. The con being, we should already struggle as it is in Monterey County to build housing, and there's another mandate for developers. Next slide, please. Another thing I brought up was trying to change laws, budgets, policies, and procedures. I noted once again in the San Francisco Bay Area that some of the local governments there have taken the authority provided with a recent state law and changed their zoning codes to reduce the chances that neighbors cannot block the proposal for small child care facilities to be operational in their neighborhoods. And I don't believe that this has been implemented yet or enacted in any Monterey local government. But a little more research will find out as things go along if the usual objections in the California Environmental Quality Act result whenever anybody tries to create a child care facility. And we want to make sure that that process is streamlined so that there is accurate environmental review of anything, but also so that that process isn't used to try to block things just for the sake of blocking them. There's also permitting, licensing, and other policies. Key is finding a proper balance between having safe, quality childcare and putting such burdens on people interested in running childcare facilities that nobody is willing to do that. We also talked about appropriating some American Rescue Plan funds for childcare. That has been done to some extent, and I believe that the funding that was used for the childcare data research for the first 5 Monterey County came from some of those American Rescue Plan funds, including childcare in the revisions of the general plans. These are the long-term growth plans for local governments, and be good to put some childcare goals into those so that they are taken into consideration. And then there's a federal and state outreach. Often state legislators and members of Congress, they're doing things and they're in their silos, and we on the local level are in our silos. We want to make sure as we go along that we get all of the different levels of government involved. Next slide. Then I said, one way we can build this relationship between business groups and businesses in the childcare world is to try to have business representatives on oversight groups. And there is a Monterey County First 5 Commission. I do as a goal in the long run when an opening vacancy next opens there, I think it would be helpful to have somebody from the business community who's very passionate and informed about childcare issues get involved onto that commission. If Measure Q passes, that childcare parcel tax I was talking about, there is going to be an oversight committee it's going to play an advisory role. And I'm hoping that we will see business representation on that now. And in fact, that's actually required within the provisions of the ballot measure. So we want to have people there who are proactive, informed, and who will report back to the business community on what's happening. And then there's a Monterey County Workforce Investment Board too, which I think also would benefit from additional business representation. Next slide. Then within the chambers, one thing about childcare is because we haven't had these relationships with childcare advocates before or programs, you don't see anything in their strategic plans about childcare. And as we get into reviewing strategic plans for these groups in the fall with the retreats, I want to make sure that at least people discuss whether or not childcare should be added. Same thing with policy manuals. We need to add child care policies. And if Measure Q passes in the fall, we really have to enact revive family-friendly business policies. You already heard Sonia talk about that and how that would be done. Direct grants from businesses and foundations to advance child care objectives. I think Measure Q is going to be a key element of that. Using the electronic and print publications to communicate ideas and principles about childcare. I think we've greatly enhanced that for the Chambers of Commerce this year, and I expect that will continue. And serve as a resource for information to businesses about childcare options. Sonia presented a couple of websites that can bring people looking for childcare options to look at what's out there. And I would like to see if it's a priority for these business groups, providing opportunities for employees to figure out what to do, and actually having direct communication between businesses and childcare clearinghouses for helping employees to get it. So in other words, being more proactive rather than letting employees figure out on their own how to do things. Because the truth is, it often requires a lot of skill to figure out where the resources are on the internet. Next slide, please. Apprenticeship and training programs. Hartnell College has an apprenticeship program for childcare, child development. As I mentioned, the Measure Q, which is coming up, one of the three targeted focuses for the funding is to help fund expenses and curriculum operations for apprenticeship programs. We want to make sure with the Measure Q that the money is going to programs where people actually know what they are doing. And I hear a lot of people say, because I can't find the formalized childcare, we just use informal things where we pass off our kids to family members or neighbors for a few hours and work it out. And while there's nothing wrong with that, there's something to be said for the formalized programs where people have some credentials, training, they've gone through, a review process to make sure that where you're going is going to be safe and it's going to be quality. Let me talk a little bit about Measure Q. And because I do not have access to my this here, I'm going to give you the website, and maybe you could pull that up, Zeus. It's yes4 MontereyCountyKids.org, and this is the official website for this. So it's yes4 MontereyCountyKids.org, and I'll talk a little bit about this. As I mentioned, as the Chambers of Commerce in September 2021, we're talking about what could be done about this childcare problem and the shortage of workers. I got a call from somebody saying, hey, there's a group of people who are coming together who are thinking about some sort of supplemental funding ballot measure for childcare. And I was invited onto that and found that people had been talking about this for 20 years, but had never really done it. And in addition, I learned that actually, despite all the talk about childcare that goes on in the county level throughout California, it hadn't really translated into anything like this. So I got involved in this campaign, and ultimately I provided input into how there would be transparency and accountability for this parcel tax that would be put on the ballot. And actually, we talked about different types of taxes. We ended up having a proposal written, and petitions were circulated in the county, and signatures gathered. And very easily, this Safe, Affordable, Quality Child Care Act was qualified for the November ballot. And both the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce and the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce have endorsed this. And you will see it on the ballot as Measure Q. And what will happen is a parcel tax will be assessed each year on properties, $49, with a couple of exemptions. And there will be this money will be used for one of three things: either helping new or expanded child care facilities with such things as liability insurance and Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. One thing I'll point out is you're somebody who wants to start a child care facility. And as it turns out, when you get into it, you find there's a lot more involved to it than just the children. You find that there's a lot of government regulations and requirements that can become very expensive. The liability insurance itself is a big expense, and it discourages people who are starting childcare facilities. This is not a lucrative enterprise, especially if you're starting a local one in your home. So the idea would be is this will provide funding so that we can increase the number of the smaller private home-based childcare facilities, so that we'll get those numbers up again. The second thing this would fund is the apprenticeship and training, so that people who want to get into this aren't suddenly socked with with big bills to start doing education. Obviously, any child care apprenticeship program, you have to pay the people who are doing the training. You got to pay for the classroom, the curriculum, all the other things that come with this. That's the second prong that would be funded by Measure Q. And the third prong from Measure Q is providing funding for rehabilitation of vacant or underused local government buildings that would allow more child care facilities to be established in cooperation with these local governments. Let me give you the website since we've been unable to pull it up here. It's yes4 MontereyCountyKids.org. And I believe there's a good chance this is going to pass in the fall. One of the other things I like about this is for the first time, people in Monterey County are going to have a direct vested interest in childcare and childcare programs. And I think this is really going to spur a lot of activity on the local level and bridge that gap between businesses and childcare world to really move us forward in solving this problem. So I look forward to seeing what happens with that on the November ballot. That concludes my presentation. We were never able to get the website up, so I think we'll just pass it to the main panelists here, and I will put myself on mute so that we don't have an echo here at the Castroville Library.
The next few workshops that we have are basic financial literacy for businesses, which we are conducting in partnership with Cal Coastal Small Business Development Center. So on October 13th, we have Business Basics, Building Your Business Plan. The following week, we have on October 20th, Startup Assistance for Businesses. And then on October 27th, we have Cash Flow Management. So those will be a series of 3 related workshops, 1 per week for 3 weeks. They can be in person at various sites or via Zoom. You can register on our website. As always, they are free. Thank you to the funding we've received from the federal government through the County of Monterey. So again, we want to thank you for joining us today on behalf of the Building Business Back program. Thank you for your time, and let's support childcare and have a great rest of the day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.